But we bring in now senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky in Ukraine, along with ABC's Phil Lipoff across the border in Poland, and White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks for more. Aaron, starting with you, Ukrainian President Zelenskyy asking Western countries to impose a no-fly zone in Ukraine. The U.S. and its allies considering that. So what are the consequences that could have?
They're not really considering it, Deirdre, mainly for two reasons. In part because it's impractical. Fighter jets from NATO cannot stop cruise missiles from Russia. But the more important part is they feel it's really unworkable to enforce a no-fly zone. It would bring NATO fighter jets, American fighter jets, into contact with the Russians over Ukrainian soil. And that, President Putin has already said, would be a declaration of war. And the fear is it would lead to World War III.
Well, that is high stakes indeed. Aaron, I'm going to come back to you. In the meantime, I want to bring in Mary Alice, because we know Secretary of State Blinken saying the U.S. is actively looking at providing Ukraine with fighter jets, but from Poland. We know also that Putin has called on the West to stop providing Ukraine with arms. So what is the risk if we do those supplies? How significant is an escalation possible?
Yeah, Deirdre, that's exactly what the White House is trying to game out now with partners. We've heard President Zelenskyy say that if you're not willing to close the skies, then give us planes. But obviously, Zelenskyy needs planes that his Ukrainian military can fly. So that would be former Soviet-made planes, likely planes that Poland might have. So a big conversation right now about whether it makes sense for Poland to try to give the Ukrainian military more planes, whether or not the United States would be willing to essentially repay Poland if they did, in fact, transfer planes to Ukraine. But all of this still feels many steps away, pretty hypothetical at this point, largely because of the topics that Aaron was talking about there. There is very much a concern about whether this would be seen as an escalation from the West, whether or not transferring such big military equipment to Ukraine would be seen as a part of a declaration of war from the West.
So to Poland now, where Phil is, most of the refugees we know crossing the border, so many of them children. We understand you spoke to one family there. What has their experience been like?
Deirdre, I've spoken to so many families with kids, and depending on their age, they feel this, they internalize what's happening differently. We spoke to one family this morning, and it was really good to see the 4-year-old boy, Timka, because the last time we heard his voice, he was in the basement of his home on the outskirts of Kyiv, describing to his mother the bombs and the guns that he had seen and heard. This little girl who you're seeing here is Timka's cousin. She's 5 years old. Her name is Anna. She internalizes this and expresses it in a different way. She drew a picture in green magic marker, and it had a tank and helicopters, and there was a man standing there, and we asked her, "Who's that man?" And she looked at us and said, "Putin." And she's 5 years old. So this is a man-made humanitarian crisis that is going to have a profound effect on the children of it.
It sure is. That reporting is amazing. We thank you for that, Phil. Aaron, coming back to you, as we alluded to, two sources in the mayor's office in Mariupol saying that Russia broke the temporary ceasefire that was supposed to allow civilians to evacuate. What is the latest on these evacuation channels and the fighting there?
This was the second day the International Committee for the Red Cross wanted to try and evacuate civilians from that hard-hit port city of Mariupol. They wanted to put them on buses. There was a pre-described route that the buses were to take. Private cars could follow behind in a long convoy out of the city, which has no running water, power, electricity. Food is running short. But for the second day in a row, the ceasefire didn't happen. The Ukrainians said that the Russians kept shelling, and so all of those people that wanted to make it out of that besieged city have to wait a little longer.
Aaron, thank you so much. Aaron Katersky, Phil Lipoff, and Mary Alice Parks. We thank you all.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.